Okay, we have Sarahbeth Simonson, Air Force veteran, with us today. And Sarahbeth is not only an Air Force veteran, she is also the Douglas County Veterans Service Officer. Thanks very much for coming in today, Sarahbeth.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Do you think we'd get a little background on you?
Yes, yeah. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York, after having been born as an Army brat at Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks, Alaska. And growing up in Buffalo, I actually was the minority white girl in my class of Hispanics. It was Puerto Ricans and African Americans there. And right in the middle of my high school career, my parents chose to move out of Buffalo, New York into the middle of nowhere. So I actually ended my high school career at a little town called Nunde, New York, and graduated from Keshwa High School in 1998 at 17 years old.
Now, where would that be?
It's just east of Buffalo, south of Niagara Falls, and just west of the Finger Lakes region, kind of in that little area
That's
there.
all right in the snow belt too, for all that lovely lake effect.
Yes, and so oddly enough, we were just far enough away. We didn't get too much lake effect snow, and we were.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it was a nice little valley area. It was very beautiful, tiny town though. So having moved from Buffalo, New York, big city, to tiny town in the middle of high school, I didn't really mesh well with the tiny town, and that was part of the reason I ended up choosing to join the Air Force. Is when I graduated, I got a job at the pharmacy in the town next door. And it was okay, but it just kind of, I felt like I needed to get out of there. I wanted to do something bigger, something different. And so I joined the Air Force as a security forces patrolman and went to that in January 1999. So I ended up, after training, because we trained down in Texas, I ended up being stationed at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
What's the difference from Buffalo to now? Did you train at Is that Lackland?
Yes, it was Lackland down
Texas, and then you're up to lovely Colorado. Cool.
Mm-hmm. So I settled in there. It wasn't too long actually, because I got there mid '99. And then everybody was worried about Y2K and the computers. And if I remember correctly, I think there was also Ramadan or some other type of festival that was happening very close to New Year's that year. And so my security forces squadron was part of a troop surge to Prince Sultan Air Base as part of Operation Southern Watch. And so I was there from about November 99 to March, I believe, 2000, as part of that troop surge, just in case something happened. Very gratefully, nothing did. My time there at PSAB was pretty much on base. It's kind of separated where the barracks and everything are in one spot, and it was multi-service base. So there was not only U.S. services, but there was French and English services there as well. And then you would kind of go off base onto the larger Prince Sultan Air Base and to the airstrip. So you'd kind of be off base and on base and going back and forth. Even with that, I was not allowed to interact with the Saudi forces, Saudi armed forces, since I was a female in uniform, and they did not do that. Also, I missed out on being able to be a a vacationing person downtown. They would do tourist, that's it. I couldn't think of the word tourist. They would do tourist visits downtown at times for those stationed at PSAB, but because of the heightened security with it being possibly Y2K, we weren't allowed downtown. So I kind of missed out on all of that, ended up spending my entire time there on base, just doing what I was supposed to do. But I got back to Colorado Springs and was there and kind of settled back into being security forces. I met up with a group, a Navigators Bible Study group, which I think was one of the best things I could have done. One of the other airmen knocked on my door. It's like, hey, we're having pizza and Bible study. You do want to come? I'm like, free pizza, I'm there, And so
it's not a bribe, but
it's not a bribe, but it works.
It worked.
So I was able to get connected with the Navigators Bible Study there. And the Navigators was actually started by Navy veterans, if I remember correctly. and it was a great resource. And I mention that because later in 2000, I went to a conference. It was the Navigators Fall Conference, and they invited our group, and then the actual Air Force Academy had cadets group for the Navigators. Ours was the unofficial enlisted group for the Air Force Academy, because it's technically the Navigators groups are outreach to colleges and military facilities, and we were the enlisted individuals, so we weren't college attendees at the Air Force Academy. But I ended up meeting some new friends at this conference in the fall, and that's actually where I ended up meeting my husband. So he was in the Navigators Bible Study at Fort Carson in Colorado. And so his group had come to the conference, and my group came to the conference, and he invited everybody who was from the Colorado Springs area to the church he was going to at the time. And so I started going to that church and dragged another friend of mine from the dorms along with me. And then it was exactly 1 year, less than a year after, we got engaged and we were married. And so,
part of the plan.
Yeah, it was just part of the plan. It was just an amazing, wonderful thing. And if it wasn't for the Navigators Bible Studies, we never would have met, because he was at the Army base and I was at the Air Force base. We didn't really cross paths, right? And so we ended up getting engaged in April of 2001 and started planning our wedding. And there was the possibility of getting married the next spring. Spring is wedding season. But as we were looking at it, he understood he had been at Fort Carson long enough. He was likely to be getting orders soon. And I was, a couple years into my enlistment with the Air Force, and pretty sure I was probably going to be at the Air Force Academy the whole time. But he was like, I'm probably going to get orders soon. We should try to plan for that. So we ended up choosing October of 2001 as our wedding date, October 27th, 2001. And then as we were starting to get everything planned and put together, September 11th, 2001, event happened. And I went from one of the sweetest ever schedules at the Air Force Academy, where you would have 2 days on, 3 days off, then 3 days on, 2 days off, and it was 8-hour schedules, and it was just sweet, to 6 days a week, 12-hour working days. And having been in the military, you know that a 12-hour shift is not exactly 12 hours. It's anywhere from 14 to 16. And put in on top of that I was security forces, so you would have to get there, get geared up, get debriefed, and then get to your station when your actual shift started, right? So it ended up being where my husband, who was like spit in a handshake, just tell me where to show up for the wedding, who ended up actually getting to plan most of our weddings. So that was fun. But that went through. I had to fight tooth and nail to get a full 2 weeks off for my own wedding and honeymoon, but we did it. And then just a month after we got married, my husband got his short tour duty orders to Korea. So we'd been married, and we spent that next part of our honeymoon week making sure we got all our paperwork in, so the Army knew he was married to an Air Force, and the Air Force knew I was married to Army. But it seems as though his orders to Korea were already coming down the pipeline before we got married. So less than 6 months into our marriage, he ended up on his short tour to Korea. And in that whole span of time, I was like, well, I don't quite want to leave the Air Force yet, but I'm not sure I want to be security forces anymore. And I took the opportunity to cross-train. So I cross-trained into financial management. Went down to Shepherd Air Force Base for training, and while I was down at training, my husband ended up going to Korea for his short tour. And then I got back to Colorado Springs until they could find a station for me under financial management, because I was still technically security forces until I got stationed somewhere. And so I ended up PCSing to Hill Air Force Base in Utah while my husband was still in Korea. And then he finished his tour there and joined me back in Utah after he got out, because that was the end of his enlistment, was his tour there in Korea.
And he was in the Army, you said?
Yep, he was Army. So he was up at Camp Hovey, if I remember. Camp Hovey or Camp Casey, something like that. And so he came, and I was stationed at Hill in Utah, and we were there, everything was great, and I was about to get out, and I got pregnant, and so I was like, that was one of the reasons I got out. I'm pregnant, I don't want to be the mom that is gone for half my kids' lives on, TDYs or anything along those lines, so that was part of the choice. So I ended up getting out in December of 2004, and then having our first child early 2005, and right around the time our daughter turned 6 months old, my husband, who was on IRR, after getting out of the Army, he chose not to do reserve or guard or anything, gets a Western telegram. Hey, you've been called up. You get to go to Iraq. So he ended up being gone for just after our daughter turned 6 months, and he didn't get back until after she was 2 years old. So that was fun. We joked it wasn't until our 6th wedding anniversary that, because of military duties, we were actually together and on the same continent at the same amount of time as we had been apart. So that was an interesting thing. And in all of this, after he had gotten out and I had gotten out, we went from 2 military incomes to 1 military income to no military income, and somebody going to college on their GI Bill while somebody was home with a baby, right? So we're like, okay, well, maybe this new call up, this enlistment, because my husband was studying to become a pastor. He wanted to become not credentialed, that's what he is now, ordained. And so he was like, well, maybe this is God saying, hey, you're supposed to get back in the military, you go back in as a chaplain, or you go back in and you do whatever job and you still, serve me while serving. And he said that it was very clear with that call back to Iraq that it is neither of us are supposed to go back into the military. Right. So he went and he served his time and he came back, and ever since then, we've been together on the same continent for most of the time, except for a couple missions trips. And
that's nice.
Yes, it's been pretty nice to be able to say that. And now that we're 23 years into being married, we have 4 children now. Our oldest is 20, and then we have 17, 15, and 13, or 14. It gets a little hazy sometimes. But
that's a mother speaking there. That's a little busy sometimes.
I could remember their birth dates, but I can't always remember at any point in time what their actual ages are.
Just corral them all together.
Together.
A group happy birthday.
Yes, exactly.
Birthday
I feed them and make sure that they wear their helmets when they ride their bikes. So I figure I'm doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's good. That way they make it from birthday to birthday.
Exactly. So that's kind of our hope. Right. So that brings me to kind of our family situation and all of that. So after I got out of the Air Force, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had our daughter, and then my husband was gone for a year and a half, and then he got back and we had more kids, and he was finishing up college. We met some friends in college that invited us to come plant a church with them, because that's what they were going to do when they graduated Bible colleges. They're going to go plant a church. So our friends moved up here to the Wenatchee area and planted a church and invited Josh along. So as soon as he graduated, we came along, and that's what brought us to here. To Wenatchee Valley. And it's become home. It's definitely become home. We had 2 children born down in Oregon, but this has really been home. This is where they've grown up. This is what they remember. And we're very grateful for it, because it's a beautiful area, and I'm glad to call it home.
A lot of opportunity to raise children in the great outdoors. I mean, whenever you want to take them out, you go out pretty quick.
So. Exactly, yes. Swimming, and one of our kids, he likes to bike, so he'll bike the loop quite a bit. And hiking, my husband will still occasionally do a hike or even put a pack on and go for a ruck, just because he wants to get some exercise, get out there, get in nature, and breathe some fresh air, right?
Get the heart pounding.
Yeah, get the heart pumping, and our dog doesn't mind either.
Dogs will go anywhere. So
yeah.
That's good.
But that's kind of what I did. Is I was just a stay-at-home mom for a good solid 14 years before I started looking for a job. And in the interim, I was using my GI Bill to go to University Phoenix Online. And so, while raising kids and doing all that, I got my bachelor's. and started looking for a job, but that didn't really pan out right away. In about 2014, 2015, my husband and I actually became VFW members. One of the VFW guys at an event we were at was like, hey, you both qualify, you should be members. And so I hadn't really thought about including myself in the veteran realm. Like,
Sure.
it wasn't something
Sure.
that I thought of. And I had used my VA healthcare because that is such a benefit for low-income families having children, that the VA healthcare covered all of my prenatal care and my first appointment after with each of
Right.
my kids. When you get to the point where you have somebody just going to college and somebody staying home with the kiddos, that's definitely helpful. And I
Yeah, any little bit helps, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And so I got connected with the VFW and started getting connected with other veterans things, and I'm like, you know what, I'm a veteran. When you think veteran, you don't always think a 25, 30, 40-year-old woman. You don't usually think that. And so it kind of sparked in me this want to put a new face on what people think of when they think veteran, where it's not just automatically a guy with a World War II hat and a wheelchair or
Absolutely.
something like that. So that kind of sparked in me that I became real active in the VFW. I served on the Douglas County Veterans Advisory Board for a while. And then as things were progressing and the Douglas County Commissioners initiated the Veteran Service Officer position, I applied for it and was able to get that.
Well, how long have you been a veteran service officer?
So it is 6.5 years. So the office was established and I was hired in January 2019.
And your office is located where?
The office is in East Wenatchee on 2nd Street,
Okay.
where the old sheriff's office used to be.
Okay.
It's a Douglas County building, and so now it houses my office and then the Office of Public Defense. And something that I've been honored to be able to help figure out is the establishment of a community access point with the Yakima Vet Center. I understand that mental health needs in the valley have been a point of contention for quite a few people. However, the involvement of the Yakima Vet Center has been miscategorized kind of as an undermining thing at points, whereas it's always intended to have been a both and type situation. And thankfully it's becoming much more of that. So Douglas County has been able to house the community access point for the Yakima Valley Vets or Yakima Vet Center providers. They've come up here to do in-person appointments and establish care with veterans in the community, and then a lot of theirs has been telehealth.
Sure.
But they've just recently hired on an individual who's going to be full-time. They're going to move to Wenatchee Valley, and they're going to do that work here locally.
Now, if a veteran wants to get more information on this, how would they contact you over there? I mean, your phone number, or can they come in actually to the office and talk with you about, you know, if they feel like they need mental health care, you know, you could give them some, like the information you're giving to us right now, you can talk to them about that and how they can get access to it and who they need to contact or all that now.
Yes, exactly. So they can come and I can get the information. The way the Yakima Vet Center referral system works currently is the veteran has to reach out to them to establish care, simply because of the distance and everything. Once that provider is here full-time, that referral system might change. I might be able to simply walk people down across the building to the provider, which is one of our goals, is to have a warm handoff option. Instead of just saying, hey, go call this phone number, right? But yeah, so my office is open for the information like that, getting people pointed in the right direction, giving them the most correct information.
Is there a number that you call to your office, or?
Yeah, so my phone number at my office is 509-888-3193. That's the main office number, yeah.
Do you do appointments like what the VSO went to here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do appointments. I do prefer appointments. It's a lot
Sure.
easier for me because
Sure.
I can't always guarantee if you walk in that I'm not already with somebody. So I do prefer appointments, and you can get me on that or vso@co.douglas.wa.us. That's the email address.
Okay.
And if you email that, it goes to me and my receptionist, and we'll reach back out to you. We have a little questionnaire that we like people filling out that helps us establish connection point and a little bit of a local case file. And with that information, we can set up the first appointment. We can get an idea of what kind of benefits and which way to point the individuals.
Now, if a first-time veteran comes in to see you, I know here they like to have like a DD-214 or any type of other documents like medical records or like that, and of course a canceled check or something like that for the VA required for your compensation to be mailed direct deposit. Now, are those things that you would like for them to bring in with them if they come to see you?
Yes, exactly. And so when someone reaches out to us by email, usually, or even if they reach out by the phone and we set an initial appointment, we will send them an initial appointment confirmation email, and I have a template that we use, and it basically lists all of those things out.
Great.
Sometimes we'll adjust it depending on what benefit the individual is looking for.
Sure.
But yeah, it includes the DD-214. If the veteran themselves are either hospitalized or incapable of doing something and it's a family member or friend, we're always like, hey, get a power of attorney or have some paperwork along those lines so that we can go forward with that. But yeah, so we have a template list that we usually send out for that.
And people should realize too that the only reason you're not trying to pry into their business, but you're just trying to expedite the process of them applying for benefits or compensation or other resources that are available to veterans. I mean, this is just something that the system requires that you to provide and the veteran to provide to go ahead with the process.
Exactly, and it's one of those that where we even tell them that not all of the documents, because I have a pretty comprehensive list, I tried to have that, not all the documents will apply in their case, but to bring what they have, and then once we identify what benefit they're going after, we'll be like, okay, we do need this, we don't need that, and then anything, I don't keep physical copies of anything, I will scan them into a PDF, and if for some reason the individual doesn't want my office to retain possession of them, I will delete them, and that's perfectly fine. That's their paperwork, their prerogative. So.
It's like here too. I mean, you're doing the paperwork and helping them navigate the system, but they're the ones that end up reviewing it, make sure that the information is correct and signing their name to it. It's not you that is signing it; it's actually them. So, and I think that's a misconception. Some of the veterans say, "Well, I don't want somebody else signing my stuff." I said, "Well, they don't."
Well, and it actually depends on which veteran service office you work with, because in my office, and I'm pretty sure the office here on this side, that we try to check with the veterans so they know and understand not only what paperwork we're filling out, who needs to sign it, because there are certain things that I could sign on behalf of the veteran, but I usually check with them. I'm like, hey, we could do this process. I can do that form for you, or do you want to come in and discuss it? And then we'll move forward that way.
Yeah, if they're physically challenged or they have a problem with their mobility or something like that, you certainly would try to accommodate them the best of your ability so that they're not put in a situation like some people can't stand the heat to come out and sign a document, in 100-degree heat.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to do that.
That could be a life-threatening signing there. So
exactly, yeah, and so it's adjusting and understanding not only the needs of the individual you're working with, but to what extent I have the capacity to help fulfill whatever other part of that. Because there are some forms I can or can't do. There are some things I am or am not comfortable with helping. So if a veteran wants to file a claim where they're absolutely sure that they're supposed to get this, but I've seen everything and I see, well, you don't have the evidence. You don't exactly have a leg to stand on. So unfortunately, situations like that come up, but that's what I try to do is I try to build rapport or build some sort of working relationship with the veteran or the family member, basically so that I can speak clearly to them. It's like, this is what I see that you're eligible for, this is what I see the evidence supports, and this is what I would suggest. And then they have the option of moving forward with what I suggest, moving forward with something different, or not doing anything at all.
Sure. And it's nice that you can review the documents, their situation, what you need, and point them in the direction that you know they're going to be able or more apt to be meet the requirements to enjoy those resources where before, I mean, you can send them down that way, but ahead of time, like you said, they don't meet the requirements or you don't have the backup documents, you know what the VA requires. And if it's not there, you're wasting your time beating your head against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's nice to have somebody. Now, because you're a Douglas County Veteran Service Officer, can veterans from, say, Grant County or Chelan County or Okanagan, are you limited to only to Douglas County? Can you work with veterans of different counties?
Yes, I can. When it comes to federal benefits, VA benefits, I can work with anybody from anywhere. Anybody that gets in touch with my office that would like to use my resources. The only restriction on Douglas County, me being a Douglas County employee, is the local Veterans Relief Funds. So the RCWs put forth that each county is supposed to have a Veterans Relief Fund collected from the housing taxes in that county, and then those specific funds are for Douglas County veteran residents.
Mm-hmm.
Anything outside of those funds, so the VA claims, the applying for health care and things along those lines, I can do that with anybody because I'm accredited with the VA just like they are here.
Sure.
But if a veteran needs help from the Veterans Relief Funds, which are the local things, they have to be a Douglas County resident in order for me to help them with that.
Now, I'm not sure, but I think I saw you at the stand down last fall,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be at this year's stand down also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's another opportunity for veterans to sit down and actually talk with you about what's available and what your services you offer over at the Veteran Service Office.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's gonna happen again. I wish I had the date right on the tip of my tongue, but I do not at
It
this
is
time.
the third Saturday in September. So
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
like September 26th or something
Okay,
like that. But
that's
yeah.
out, but we'll get back to you on that. And anything else that you want to share with us about that?
Well, it's kind of harkening back to the idea of changing the face of what you think of when you think of veteran, and how that one of the biggest things is getting connected with a women veterans group here in town, where it was amazing for me to see the variety of women veterans, and we're kind of hiding in plain sight. And then even since then, I've been able to communicate with friends I know from church or neighbors or things along those lines, and I'm like, hey, you served and you served honorably, you're a veteran as well. But then I can also recognize in them that similar to the time when I was just a stay-at-home mom, it wasn't something that was really relevant to me to identify myself as a veteran and to step into these places as a veteran. It became relevant to me because I made it relevant.
Sure.
But being able to do that, and then I consider myself a rather dynamic person. I am multifaceted, and it just really depends on what hat you need me to wear. Because I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a friend, I am a neighbor, I'm a veteran, I'm a VFW member. I'm actually the chaplain for our local VFW, as well as the vocalist if they need that. And I'm actually going to be singing the national anthem for the Apple Sox this Friday.
Right.
And so I'm excited to do that. And depending on whether or not the coordinators need it for the stand down, I may sing the national anthem for the stand down as well. I didn't this last year because I was fresh out of jaw surgery. But
Well, too, I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to take up arms for your country to be of service to your country.
mm-hmm.
There's so many different things. And I have to say this, I've heard more women say, well, I was just a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
I realize what stay-at-home moms have to do, the job that they do, and it is, it's unbelievable. I mean, there are so many things that a stay-at-home mom, and I just hate to hear the word "just a" because it's almost like a demeaning type thing.
That's why I did like the air quotes, because
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah.
that too, and I've done that, and
Because,
it just automatically comes out.
Yeah, people will say, well, you're just a, no,
Mm-hmm.
you're not just a, you're a proud mom, and you're responsible for 4 wonderful children being brought up, nurtured, cared for, fed, clothed, you and your husband housed. I mean, that is no simple task in itself,
Mm-hmm.
besides all the other things in this complicated world that parents have to deal with every single day, every minute of the day, worried about, concerned about, thinking about. So that's service in itself. I mean, even if you don't wear the uniform ever, but yeah, there's so many things that a person can do to serve their country. And I know when I was working with children, I had a small child. He was about third grade, and we were talking. It was on Veterans Day, and he said that he knew that when I would tell them, emphasize you didn't have to pick up a weapon. He said, well, just being kind and caring of a person is service to your country and your community.
Yeah.
Because it makes them stronger, and then making people in our community and their community stronger make our country stronger.
Yeah.
I'm going, a 3-year-old,
Third
a third
grader can figure this out. Yeah.
And children, they're like that. They're so uninhibited. They're not judgmental at that age. And they're going, this is what I feel. And that came straight from his heart, and about brought tears to my eyes, because I couldn't have said any better than that.
Yeah, and that's something I'm grateful for. None of my children have really expressed a want to do military service, and my husband nor I have tried to force them into it, but we at least try to make sure that they're good community members. They're contributing to the community, they're kind to their neighbors, and thoughtful civilians and people in the world and part of this country and community. Like you were saying and that kid said, it's a good way to serve our country is by being a good part of the country.
And that's a big part of being a good person, is being kind and caring. And that doesn't make you weak, that makes you stronger, because you're caring about others.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share, Sarahbeth?
I don't think so. I mean, I could probably chat your ear off for
No,
quite a lot longer, but
it was all interesting, and I want to emphasize again, Sarahbeth is the first lady veteran, but I certainly hope that you're not less, because this is not a project for male veterans. This is, I encourage any and all lady vets locally, please give Tony a call down here at the VSO and come in and have a comfortable chat here. I certainly enjoyed this, and I look forward to sitting down with other ladies and listening to their experiences and their stories of service.
definitely, I'll spread the word as much as I can.
Well, thank you so much again for coming in. I appreciate that.
All right, thanks.
Okay.